Do you know these two? You may not, but she ended up killing her. And you may ask why, but that's why we're here today. So, that little girl had something, or her mother had something called factitious disorder by proxy. And factitious disorder is something that's really become really relevant in media. And I want to bring it to the light today because there's a lot of misinformation that's been going around about it. And so I've taken a lot of classes on psychology and on things like mental illnesses specifically. And so I hope to bring awareness to this mental illness in particular and to help stop that sort of spread of misinformation. And so first we're going to go over what it is, then how it's really harmful, and then we're going to go over some depictions of it in media. And so the first point is that there are two different types of factitious disorder. The first one is really common, and it's the one that's most often depicted in media, and that's called factitious disorder by proxy. Factitious disorder by proxy is a disorder where these women, most often women is where it presents most, but parents or caregivers are inflicting illnesses on their children, often to get pity, sympathy, or charity from other people. And so the DSM-5, or the big mental illness book that people use to diagnose others, which was produced May 18th in 2013, states that factitious disorder by proxy is an illness where someone falsifies what medical diagnosis other people have. The other type is factitious disorder, no proxy. And so this, the DSM says, is just a medical diagnosis that someone is inflicting on themselves. No other people are involved. So now you know what it is. Let's talk about how it's harmful. Factitious disorder is dangerous for both those involved, for the children that the caregivers are inflicting it on, and also the doctors that are treating these people. And so the main issue with this disorder is manipulation, especially with by proxy cases. Manipulation, they manipulate doctors, family, often to get things like donations or different medical procedures done. And so Dr. Kirksham, who is an assistant professor, did a case study in July of 2017 where two families were taken into this scientific study, and the mother ended up talking over the children and doing things like that throughout both of the cases. There were two completely different children. One was a girl, one was a boy, but that was one thing that was really consistent, is the mother kept talking over them. And so another situation that's really harmful is unnecessary medical procedures. So these can be things like feeding tubes, port caps, medical aids like a wheelchair or crutches. And these actually can sometimes even lead to death in the victim, especially whenever you're doing something such as a feeding tube on a body that doesn't need it. There's a much higher risk of complication. And so another issue is medical negligence, and this leans more towards the doctors, because while they are trained to not treat these people and give them these unnecessary situations, medical procedures and things like that, sometimes they still do, and that can set them up for a lawsuit, especially if someone ends up dying from one of these procedures. And so they're trained to identify these things and refer to a psychologist, but that doesn't always happen, clearly. And so now we know what it is and how it can harm others. Let's look at it in media. So it's a hot topic in media, mostly on TV. And so we have two really common portrayals, and that's the HBO documentary and the Hulu TV show. The HBO documentary is actually a real depiction with real clips and things, whereas the Hulu version is dramatized with actors and that sort of thing. And so the HBO documentary is actually called Mommy, Dead and Dearest. It was premiered in 2017, and like I said, it does feature real video clips, which is very interesting and can lead to some more insight into the DD case that I showed a picture of earlier. So I hope that you have a better understanding of, first of all, what factitious disorder is, how it's harmful, and then finally of a picture of it in media. And so it's not just believing that you have it, as many may seem, it's actually inflicting it on either others or yourselves. And it can lead to things like death, disfigurement, everything like that. And so I really hope that you leave this speech and inform others today what you think and what you've learned. And so whenever you think of factitious disorder, I want you to remember this couple and what happened to them and their story. Thank you. And then here is my audience.